There was this guy in South Dakota who was in the state government, whatever. He admired the Black Hills. It was a wonderful place, but nobody knew about it. Clear out there in South Dakota. And we're talking, the teens, the 1920s. So he wanted to attract tourists to South Dakota. So he got the idea of carving faces in the granite cliffs of South Dakota. And he had in mind Red Cloud, Indians, Custer maybe. He had in mind figures related with history of the West specifically. And he went around to, groups just like the one we were talking to in Polk County, Chamber of Commerce, local government, and tried to sell them on this idea. Look, let's invest money and so forth. We'll get people out here and see these wonderful Black Hills. And of course also spend some money. And the way the idea evolved, people really liked the idea, but they said it's impossible. Well, then this guy, Gustav Borglum, whatever, forget his name exactly, something like that. Anyway, he had actually already carved, rather giant portraits on Stone Mountain, outside of Atlanta. So he'd already been involved, and he got involved with, then he heard about it and got involved with the South Dakota project. And then he was the one who proposed that it be the heads of presidents. Actually, originally they were going to carve full bodies of the presidents. And then, of course, they went all through the politics and everything, raised the money from Congress, and, then went into the building. And 20 or 30 years later, they had Mount Rushmore with the heads of the 4 presidents, and associated with certain major national values that America believed in. And now Mount Rushmore is not just, it's a tourist attraction, but it's also a very important symbolic, part of the symbolic culture, the symbolic capital, as it's called, of America in terms of the formation of its national identity. And school kids, visited and everything. And actually many things are like that. I mean, Miss America pageant, which is, this embodiment of a certain kind of values, started as a tourist attraction to Atlantic City, New Jersey. Many examples of this when you look into it, that many things that started as tourist attractions that were then appropriated or adopted by the culture through their popularity or through their connection with the history of the United States became important to the formation, to the symbolization, and really to the self-conscious reflection upon the values that form our national identity. So then the idea that we got, the Florida Research Ensemble, the idea that we got was, that's excellent. Let's plug into that. Let's take up that potential, that teoria potential for tourism, and actually start to create sites that bring this dimension of nation building into self-consciousness. Build the kinds of sites that would actually increase the awareness that tourists would have, that not only are they enjoying themselves on a vacation or something, but that they're also participating in the formation of the nation. And that we wanted to add the electronic dimension to that. And through the electronic dimension would be where this could be an ongoing activity, not just the time you took your vacation or a couple times you went to Mount Rushmore, but that through alliance with the schools, that we could start to have a way in which the citizens of the nation could participate in nation building. That is, we could actually reflect upon what kind of nation do we really want to have. We could begin to address, we could begin to write the values, not just leave that up to the Gustav Borglums and the people, the tourist bureau people or something that would say, hey, we think, we can get some people to see, it'd be spectacular to see 60-foot high heads carved in, in the granite hills. But that we would actually have the whole public school system participating in this process. And, but what we proposed, because our conception of what was happening digitally, ultimately leading to the internet, was that the internet is a monument that is inhabitable. It's an inhabitable monument. That, you've got the 4 heads of Mount Rushmore there, and, they're carved in stone, literally. They're fixed, the values are fixed. and that's it. And then you go and you can talk about it or something. But what we thought was that, and part of the thinking, the theoretical thinking here was related to our understanding of psychoanalytic theory. And the nice thing, what psychoanalysis suggests is that personality formation, the identity formation of individuals, is, in terms of like symptom formation, is actually a kind of internal monumentality. That when an individual forms his or her identity, it's formed around the internalization that takes place when the person identifies with adult figures, beginning with the infant identifying with the parent. And so the individual identifies with the parent figure, internalizes the parent figure, and then later identifies with the school teacher, identifies with the baseball coach, identifies with the Girl Scout leader, identifies and so on. And then, of course, on into media, identifies with the star, the Michael Jordans or the Tiger Woods or, the models or whomever, identifies with. And what that means is when we say a person identifies with Tiger Woods or somebody like that, we means that they internalize their image. And if you like, the myth or the legend of that person is taken into the psyche of the individual and becomes part of their personality in a certain sort of way, mixed in with the other figures of identification. So the idea was, oh yeah, every person's got his or her own Mount Rushmore. There's a personal Rushmore that every person has. And so then the thinking was, let's build an electronic Rushmore, and it'll have a dimension actually physically in Florida, and it'll also be on the internet. And that the purpose of this, which we came to call the Florida Rushmore, the purpose of Florida Rushmore would be to not only raise awareness about nation building that goes on through tourism, but actually became a venue, a site in which, especially we're thinking of public school students, could actually begin like a living monument, come alive. It would be like Mount Rushmore comes alive because it's an inhabitable monument. It's inhabited by living folks, and would start to actually talk back to the nation. It would actually start to think. It would actually begin to represent collectively these heads. So the thing that we proposed to the Polk County people was that we would build a monument. It would be a 60-foot high composite head that would be projected as a hologram, using compositing the Nancy Burson composited heads that Nancy Burson, working with some programmers, developed the software that actually the FBI then took over and used to trace missing persons. Because with this compositing software, one of the things Burson did was she statistically figured out the population of the globe, like how many Asians, how many Africans, how many Caucasians. And then she took typical features of these different races and composited them. So then you got the face. Give me a face that shows me what the global proportions of the different races are. And there was this face, composited image. Or another thing she did was she took the most famous movie stars, both men and women, did one of each, one for men, one for women, of the 40s or 50s, and then of the 80s or something like that, and composited. And then say, well, what did what would the average movie star, male or female, look like in the 40s if you put them all together, and similarly for the 80s? And it was amazing. I mean, the difference. The older one had much more interesting features, sharper, stronger type features, noses, cheekbones, and so forth. And the features of the 80s were these really pasty-faced